Looks like we're on. Fantastic. We are on. Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. My name is Winston Bromley, the Marketing Director at Warriors Heart. I wanted to do a quick celebration. We have done this for the last 90 days. It has just been just on 90 days. So a lot has happened, but 90 days is a good milestone for what we did. And we appreciate everybody who has been on these town halls and giving us questions as we go and also commenting after. So if you're watching the replay of this, thank you very much. Again, my name is Winston Bromley from Warriors Heart. We are the #1 warrior healing center in the world for military and first responders. And we're still here. We are still open. Inside of COVID, we are still open with everything else going down at the moment because we are an essential service. So tonight, I'm so happy to have our founders on the call. We had done this a couple weeks back and we had some major technical issues. So now I'm very happy that they were able to get onto the call. And we have them on the call to talk about various topics at Warriors Heart. So without further ado, I want to introduce Tom Spooner, Lisa Lannon, and Josh Lannon. Now, hey, fanfare, woo-hoo. So we'll start off with Tom. So Tom, you're U.S. Army retired and a co-founder of Warriors Heart. So just give us a short, brief description about who you are, what you've done, and talk about you.
Thanks, Winston. It's always the hardest thing for me to talk about. So I ended up doing almost 21 years in the military from 90 to 2011. I was in the 82nd. I was in 7th Special Forces Group, and I was out at Delta as an operator. And did 40 months time in combat. Big part of the story is I got sober back in 92. So I have a huge passion for that, and was sober for 18 years in the military, 16 in special operations. Got out of the military and I had some struggles with TBI and PTS, and did a bunch of therapies for that, which helped greatly. Met Josh and Lisa, and we got together and created Warriors Heart. That journey began in 2013, and we opened up in April of 2016. I think that's as short as I can get it down.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it could go very long, of course. Next, I want to introduce Lisa Lannon. Lisa, you're the co-founder of Warriors Heart and also a former law enforcement officer. So give us a little bit of background on yourself as well.
All right, so a little bit about background about myself is, going back further, my grandfather is an Army World War II veteran. My father is an Army Vietnam veteran. My mother is Vietnamese. She was an interpreter during the war. So they met over there and got married, came back to the States. I was born. My father, when he got out, went into law enforcement and was a law enforcement officer for 20 some years of my life. And when I was in my 20s, I moved to Las Vegas, joined Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, predominantly worked on the corrections side, on the booking floor, worked the streets for New Year's and special events, all of that good stuff. Met Josh in my early 20s, and we got married. Along came addiction, and we went through some of those struggles. And in 2001, he can tell his story, but he got sober, and after that we opened up our first treatment facility in 2002, grew it to 6 locations in 2 states, and decided we needed to do something for our warriors. There was nothing out there for them. And we wanted to be a part of the solution, with the veteran suicide, law enforcement, firefighter suicide. And, not only did we become partners with Tom and Lori, but great friends as well. Our families vacation together. And it's been a wonderful, hard, but well worth it journey. So that's a little bit about me.
I appreciate that. Thank you again. And then Josh, you are, of course, a co-founder and the president of Warriors Heart. Give us a bit of background on yourself as well.
Thanks, Winston. You bet. So, born in California, don't hold that against me. Raised in Hawaii. Absolutely love Hawaii, love the culture, love the people. My father still lives there. We get to go visit him a couple times a year. I just share that because it's really like the core of who I am. If I could wear slippers and shorts, I'd be like happy and running through the jungle. And met Lisa in Las Vegas. I was running nightclubs, working for my father because I was unemployable. Just had been like, I was a good employee, but not really. Like if it wasn't for my father, I would have been fired a long time ago. Because my addiction, I was drinking, partying, and it took the best of me. So when Lisa came into the nightclubs, was running a country western nightclub in Vegas. It was love at first sight. It just took me a little while to tell her that. That's a whole nother story in itself. But fell in love, got together, and then Lisa gave me the ultimatum. It's like, hey, you either go to rehab tonight or I'm going to divorce you. That was in 2001, November 27th. And I did. I chose in, went to a program, came out and decided that hey, I can't get people drunk for a living anymore. It was a pretty dark place for me. It was a very dark place, and where it took me personally. So I didn't want to continue on with that lifestyle. So we got into the recovery side of it. Instead of getting people drunk for a living, let's help them get sober. We knew it intimately and what it was like. So we opened our first treatment center, and then we expanded that to 6 locations in multiple states. As Lisa mentioned, we ended up selling those treatment centers in 2015, but still had the mission, still had the purpose. It's like, okay, what's next? Like, there's still more out there. Met Tom in 2013, and little did I know the seeds or those breadcrumbs had been planted along the way. Kind of like life doesn't make sense looking forward, but when you look back, you can see all the connections and the dots. So the dots were met Tom, found out that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. That did not even make sense to me. Like logically, it's like, how is that even possible? But it's true. So broke it down with Tom and Lisa. What's killing them first? Substance abuse. Guys are typically high or drunk when they make the final act. So having a background in behavioral health, all of our backgrounds coming together. I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not military. I wish I was. I was too busy partying and being an asshole, and Lisa, she by all means, she should have arrested me a number of times, right? So love it. Should have been there. I wasn't, all that stuff. My addiction took my life. So control of it. So here we are running treatment centers, meet Tom, we sold the other ones, found out 22 veterans a day commit suicide. It's like, okay, we got to do something about this. Otherwise, like one of those things, like when you have a mission, you have a calling, and you don't do something about it, it eats at your soul. And it's like the risk of not doing anything outweighs the risk of doing something. We got to do something. We got to take action. So we did. We formed Warriors Heart. It's the only private, licensed, accredited healing center that's dedicated to our warrior class, and it's working. It's working because we know how to treat warriors the way warriors need to be treated. With dignity and respect, and our ethos and our codes that we have. I know it's a little longer, but extremely passionate about the work that we're doing now, and know that there's such depth into what got us all 3 here together.
Amazing, thank you. Now,
and I'm gonna add to that, Winston, because that's just what I do.
It is, but go ahead.
Interrupt and add things. So just going back, when we had our previous facilities, we had a number of veterans and law enforcement come through. And what we found out is in a group setting where there's not other warriors, they're not able to open up. We have a veteran who wants to talk about and relieve himself of the PTSD or the traumas of war, and everyone else is sitting back, and this is a little over exaggerated popcorn, like it's a movie, tell us the stories, and he's just trying to heal. Or we have a law enforcement officer sitting across from, a drug dealer or a SWAT officer, and it's like, I feel undercover in my own treatment from both sides, the veteran and first responders. So it's like, that's why we're exclusive. Other facilities may have a track, but they're still in that group setting where they feel they cannot completely open up. And that's what really, really makes us different, not only with all the different programmings we do that relate to this class, this population, but also that camaraderie is almost instant, because we know as soon as someone walks in the door, they've gone through an academy or a boot camp or something similar to where we have that shared common experience.
Okay. And actually, while we're on that subject, why don't you tell us about our milestone that we hit with the 1,000th person coming through the door? Do you want to touch a bit about on that?
Who are you throwing that to?
Oh, I'll throw that too. I thought, sorry, I'm looking at Lisa on my video, but I know it's not like we're crossing each other. My apologies. I'll pass it to you, Lisa.
Well, yeah, it was what, three weeks ago, we had our 1,000th client come through the door. We had a cake, you know, and it's not something you really want to celebrate, but it's like, hey man, you're taking on your life. You are the 1,000th person that came through our door to heal. And you know, it's considering how difficult it's been in the long road to hit this milestone has been phenomenal.
Yeah, because just going from an idea, a concept, to number 1,000 walks through the program, a 42-day course, enrolling it. You have other from alumni to elder warriors to guys that have been in the program just a few weeks, like everyone there, it's like, man, this is a big deal. So I wanted to, of course, have everyone lined up and cheer them on. Imagine walking to rehab and be like, what the hell is this? So we didn't do that, but we did get a cake and we celebrated privately because it's like, hey man, welcome home.
Exactly. It's a big milestone. And Tom, what do you think? Or what's your take on that?
Well, everything that Josh and Lisa said, of course, and then just to really break it down at a micro level is just the math piece on it for me. It's you know, I've been sober for 27 years now. So if you looked at just a simple math of it, if I sponsored, you know, 5 guys a year, which is a big number, more than likely too much, but even if I was to do that for 27 years, that would equal about 135 people. Right. So, okay, a lot of years, not a lot of people, good quality, but not really, you know, being able to expand and, you know, put all of that out. In 4 years, just over 4 years, we've had 1,000 come through.
That's amazing.
So for me, it's a huge deal because it just, and SF, you know, we call it force multipliers. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, how do you, there's only one of you, but how do you take what you have and what you've learned and what you know and your experience and get it out to as many people as you can, you know? And that's what Warrior's Heart is. Like we'd mentioned, this, so the 3 of ours accumulative experiences, not just knowledge. I mean, we have knowledge also, but it's really out of the wisdom of our hard learned experiences, you know, and it's huge, you know, being able to affect that many, you know, because you know, you got to look at the first year, you know, whenever we had, you know, 8 guys or gals in there at one time, you were like, oh my gosh, you know, we're crushing it, you know. And
a little bit of a delay.
you know, we had 58, and so it's very telling. I mean, it's incredible. I could go on and on about it, but we won't because we don't have a lot of time. But I think, I mean, it's a huge milestone. It's something that I personally am super proud of, and I know everyone else is also.
Thank you. And then, Josh, I wanted to pass this over to you. In terms of curriculum and, say, electives that are in the system, one of them that you're very passionate about is Jiu Jitsu. Do you want to touch base on a little bit about that and why we have that on site as an elective?
Yeah, you bet. And I'm going to back up just a little, and I'll go into the Jiu Jitsu with the curriculum.
Yeah.
Is that when we acquired the program or acquired the property, Warrior's Heart, it's a 543-acre ranch. We converted it into a healing center dedicated just to the warriors. But we had to jump through all the hoops for our pedigrees, our credentialing. So from state licensing to the accreditation to TRICARE blessing off on us, now also with the VA accepting us. So we can take active military, veterans, first responders, and some of this with zero money out of the guy's pocket. You know, just, hey, put some money down if you want to get shirts and stuff or massages, but your program is covered. This is a huge milestone for a private organization that can treat our warriors in the private sector. So super happy about that. So if we go back to the curriculum, we've been building curriculum for years and years. So we've been in the field since 2002, the behavioral health field. Tom, with his collective experience in AA. So we come together, and then Annette Hill, incredible clinician, we brought her on board to help build out the program. So we have this vetted program that wasn't just like, hey, it's a good idea. Like this stuff works, and we've proofed it out. So a component that we're able to add to this is the Jiu Jitsu program, because we know physical training is important to the mind, body, spirit, the holistic modalities of treatment. So Jiu Jitsu, what I'm passionate about is, like, I'm a stand-up fighter. I love stand-up, but when I started doing Jiu Jitsu, it was a totally different game, and I had to learn it. And what I learned is, one of the biggest lessons I learned from my Jiu Jitsu instructor is, he'd ask me, well, he'd tell me in his Portuguese accent, and I can't really imitate that very well, but I'd be in a bad situation, and he would just stop me and look at me and go, Josh, why are you making this worse? I'd be in a bad situation. I would fight. I'd struggle. I would turn my back. And he's like, you're in a bad position. Don't make it worse. And so we've taken those concepts, those principles into our program. Like, hey, all right, you're already in a bad situation. Don't make it worse by burning it down. But the case of the fuckets, right? And hey, I'm gonna drink. Man, don't make it worse. So there's a lot of parallels to what we do in jiu-jitsu with recovery.
And we have quite a lot of, as you mentioned, with the electives, we have quite a good number between yoga and the metal shop, which is very popular, the wood shop, art class. So there's a bunch of great
canine program.
Canine, yeah. There's quite a lot of things on that. So one of the things I wanted to talk to, I'll bring it up to Tom, is tell us a little bit about the vision for Warriors Heart at the beginning with the 1 million Warriors home, and why that's so. It's an amazing thing to have in front of you and to reach for. But what does it signify to you?
Yeah, the vision, it goes back to, in this case, all of Josh and Lisa's experience, in the drug and alcohol industry, in running rehabs, in all the business and, all the personal development, all the business development they did. So, when we got together to kick this thing off, they weren't new. It wasn't the way, it was like the 100th rodeo, kind of deal. And so I was just the recipient of what they already knew and was going through everything. So when it comes to that vision, that was one of the first things, was like, hey, we knew what we wanted to do. We knew who we wanted to help. We knew how to help them and provide assistance. But it was like, okay, how do we wrap that up, and what does it look like? That's an attainable goal, but it's really, really big, and that's where we came up, is like, well, we want to bring 1 million Warriors home, in 10 years, so just coming up with that vision really set in place, like the amount of growth that we would have to have, what I mean? You're not just getting 1 million Warriors home by just one location with one program. It's a whole movement. And so that setting that vision for us at the beginning, collectively setting that, it drove all the decisions afterwards, and still drives our decisions on a daily basis. As far as like, hey, how do we do it better? How do we grow? How do we get more in? It's constantly, because the demand, unfortunately, is huge. But it is what it is, and our vision fits, and it drives all the decisions that we have, is that particular vision.
Okay, awesome.
I'm going to add to that, if that's
Please,
right.
go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, with the vision of 1 million Warriors home, it's such a big vision, and if you do the math on, we have a 60-bed treatment center. How's that even possible? Like, it doesn't pencil out. And that's one of the reasons why we set the goals, because we would have to think unconventionally to make it happen. Conventional MBA would be facility, number of beds, and then it just becomes how many butts and beds that you're getting. It's like, no, that's not what we're about. It's about quality. So we have to think unconventionally. And one of the ways that we did it was a program, I think it's incredible, called Warriors Anonymous, right? It's nothing that we created. We just repurposed or reshaped an existing AA, NA, SA. Like, it's already there. And Tom, you want to talk more about it? Because then I'll add a piece to it. But I think that is an example of how we're thinking unconventional to attack this problem.
That's right.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to solidifying that vision. I mean, it was key. And then to Josh's point, the Warriors Anonymous piece is, Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step program, is helping millions of people globally, right? It's 87 years old, it's tried and true. Like Josh said, it's an existing program that works. So what we did with that aspect of it is within there, they have specialty meetings, like all women's meeting, all men's meeting, young people's meeting. So there's all these subsects of categories in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just created one of the profession where you face life and death on a daily basis as a profession, you know what I mean? And that's who comes to Warriors Anonymous. So like Josh had mentioned, we put that in the space, we kicked it off, we got it approved by World Services. Our clinical team did all the footwork for that.
Mm-hmm.
We just did the vision. And now, there's all kinds of meetings that are online with Warriors Anonymous. There's at least 2 that we know of. I know there's more, but there's one, in Cherokee County and in Georgia, and then there's one outside of San Antonio, so that way, back to the vision, back to 1 million, back to unconventional, it's not all about Tom, Josh, and Lisa, helping 1 million people. Like Josh said, that doesn't, you can't, at the end of the math doesn't work on that, but it's like, hey, how do we push it out there? And Warriors Anonymous is one of the ways that we do it. We have our treatment program, that's another way, and we have our intensive outpatient treatment, we have our sober living, so we're hitting it in all the different ways that we can, conventional and unconventional.
Right.
And the idea comes from this book. Part of it comes from this book, The Starfish and the Spider. The idea is about creating organizations, leaderless organizations. A spider organization has a head, has a leader. You kill it, it's dead. So like Warriors Heart, they take out one of us 3 facilities, like done, right? But Warriors Anonymous, you can't kill it. So like a starfish, you cut it and it just grows another starfish.
Yeah.
So with this movement that's being kicked off and it's gaining momentum for Warriors Anonymous, it will impact people all around the world, because you could be in a military base in Kuwait and go to a WA meeting. Like, it's pretty cool. And I want to show you this, Tom. Ironhead gave me this, said, hey, this is for your guys' project. So I thought you'd find that pretty cool.
Awesome. I'm just going to interject for 1 second. So essentially, as you guys are watching us on Facebook Live right now, we are taking questions, and we have a couple that have already come through. So if you guys have any questions for any of our founders, please go ahead and just type it down below. We'll try to answer as many as we can within the time scope that we have here. One of them that came up, I'll just pass this over to you, Lisa, although I could probably answer it, is, what kind of insurances do we take, and do we accept TRICARE?
So great question. We do take all types of insurances. We are currently in network with TRICARE and Aetna. We take the VA, so we're in network with them as well. All the others that we're out of network with, we do take them, we bill, we still call them verified benefits, and then come up with, what is the member's out-of-pocket costs. And we do that with in-network and out-of-network. So the best thing is just to call us, we'll run the benefits, and we'll see, what we can do from there. And our goal is never to turn anyone away for lack of funding.
Right.
And that's one thing I just throw out there is like our commitment, Tom, Lisa, and mine, to our warriors that come through the program and their family members that are supporting them. You will never get a surprise balance bill from us. Like, we're not going to hit you with a surprise bill. Guess what? Your insurance company didn't pay, and you owe thousands of dollars. It's not going to happen. Like, we're there for you, and we're in this fight together.
Right.
And sometimes there's frustrations, on the insurance company side. They'll say, like, a lot of VAs will say, like, well, we want them to go through our program first. Or an insurance company will say, well, we're recommending this program because they're closer to home, so we're willing. So there's a frustration, and it's hard to go through that when someone's struggling and saying, hey, we want you to come, but your insurance company is currently limiting what you can and cannot do. So like I said, our goal is not to turn anyone away, but we do sometimes have to abide by what the insurance companies say.
And that actually has come up a couple times in the comments, that it's being fed to us from our team. Just, the difficulty of different parts of that insurance issues, right? And, that's that's the way it goes right now. As you said, it's all based off of what they feel is best, not, what is necessarily the best.
Well, and being a private company,
Yes.
we want to keep our lights on. We want to
Mhm.
hire the best counselors, the best doctors, provide incredible food, provide
Mhm.
incredible service. And it takes income to do that. So that's where, hey, we're fighting with you. We're advocating for you. Ultimately, it's your insurance, but we're going to do what we can. We're just not going to hit you on the back end for whatever they don't pay.
That's right.
And we have a lot of tough conversations with the insurance companies on, it's like, really, I can get on my soapbox for days about it, but it's difficult. So we do what we can to reach through, take their hand, and just walk them through the process.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, it's important. I mean, we're taking a mixed bag of all the different types of insurances, all the different types of people, different things across the board, and they get to judge which ones come through. So we're doing the best that we can. Actually, more than just doing the best. Tell us a little bit about how you guys came about getting the acre. Like, how did you find where Warriors Heart is sitting on now? Because to me, when I'm there on site, it's always a magical place because it's big. It feels refreshing when you come into it, and you can see it on the faces of the Warriors when they come through. On day one, where they're obviously in the throes of different things that are going on inside them, but as they're leaving, just you see this person just light up, right? So tell us a little bit about the property itself, or how you guys came about doing that. Just a brief history, because we don't want it to take forever. So I'll pass that to.
It's such a good history.
It is. Josh, I'm going to pass it to you. You're a good storyteller.
Well, thanks, but this is Lisa's lane.
Lisa.
I'll help fill in some gaps, Lisa.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm usually direct and sweet.
Perfect. I appreciate
the
that.
property search started in Dallas because of our other facilities in Arizona and Utah. We thought, well, Texas is really military and law enforcement friendly, wide open spaces. So we started in Dallas, kind of looped down through Austin, Hill Country, San Antonio, and just not finding the right thing. I walked through at least 300 properties, went through a couple real estate agents because I'm taking them all over the state. Well, I want to see this and this and this, and got down here to Hill Country outside of San Antonio and found this ranch. Not the one we're currently on, but I was like, oh, this is a possibility, because we were looking at large McMansions, large homes, because that was our previous model.
Sure.
And once I really got the idea of a ranch in my mind, I'm like, it's got to have this big open space. So went through due diligence of one property, found out it was in a floodplain that we did not want to be in. So the search continued.
Sure.
And so our new agent's like, well, let me take you to this one property. It's not for sale, but I want you to see it so I have a better idea of what to look for. So we went to the property, walking through it, and it was under the guise of we wanted to maybe rent it out for a corporate retreat. Walk through, and I'm like, that's it. This is it. We found our property. And Josh is like, no way, and so we had to go through, well, who owns it? And it was a energy company out of New Mexico. Okay, well, let's set up a meeting. Let's go meet them, see if they're willing to sell. So we fly down to Artesia, New Mexico, meet with Mac Chase and his board of directors. We go into this beautiful building. There's 9-10 of his team, all directors. And for an hour and a half, they peppered us with questions.
Well, first, when we walked in, he's sitting there and he goes, well, you got us here. Now, what the hell do you want? I was like, oh, crap, here we go.
Here we go. So we just sat in the heat, answered questions for an hour and a half. And at the end, they're like, well, give us 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And, Matt came up to me. He was early 80s at that point, 4 years ago. And he handed me his business card. It had his personal cell phone number on it. And he goes, give me 30 days, like I said, but if you run into any problems with my team, you give me a call. And I knew right then we had it. Awesome. So we are on a 543-acre ranch, and it is incredible. And the testimonies of our warriors when they come through and when they leave, they're like, this is home. This is my safe place. Because we welcome them home when they come onto the property. And, there's tons of memes out there that get sent to us of, well, we want to move back. Let's build a tent city. So there's all these jokes, they want to come back because it's home.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. That's a fantastic story. Actually, a question just came in that was asking, do you have plans to open an additional location? Question mark. So, any of
We
you?
do. Yeah,
Perfect.
we had a strategic meeting at the beginning of the year before all the COVID crap hit, right?
Mhm.
There's strategic meetings. How do we go from 100 beds to 1,000 beds? And there's a strategic plan in place. We do have a couple places identified within Texas and outside of Texas. Outside of Texas, we're looking at North Carolina.
Mhm.
So we do have multiple locations in the design. Everyone has a plan. What does Tyson say? Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, everyone, everyone got punched in the mouth this year. So we're still in the fight, but it did slow down some of our growth plans because we want to make sure we do it right.
Okay. Actually, we'll just touch on that briefly. Is with COVID affecting most places and getting them closed down. Different treatment centers are getting closed down because of what's happening. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're doing at Warriors Heart in that
Yeah,
situation? So I'll pass it to. I'll start with Josh, but you can go ahead and pass it around.
yeah. Sorry, I'll start with it on the operations side, and I'll hand
Sure.
it over to Tom.
Perfect.
Is that it's not that other treatment centers are getting closed down;
Mhm.
it's that they're choosing to close down.
Right.
Like, no, we're not even going to risk it. We don't know. It's bizarre to me.
Mhm.
We've even seen VAs shut down. So it's all across the board. So what we looked at, we sat down and said, okay, we're here. This is, the playing field. This is what we're dealt with. What are we going to do? We could close up shop, take bailout money and just wait it out. Or do we stay in the fight? So looking at it, well, what's going to kill our Warriors first? Is it COVID or is it addiction? Man, it's addiction.
Mhm.
Like, it is real and it's out there and it's more deadly than this disease or this virus for our warrior class. I mean, if you even look at 22 veterans a day, do some of the numbers, like it's
Mhm.
killing our guys
Yeah.
more than Corona. So what we did is, we put all our protocols in place, our systems, our process, temp checks, CDC questions, all of it. But it still pierce the walls. Like, you
Mhm.
can't stop a virus. It's invisible, right? Is it symptomatic? Are you asymptomatic? There's so many variables. Did I touch something? Did I pick it up at the gas station? I mean, you don't know, right? So I was like, all right, we're still in operation. We all agreed to this. Now we have a COVID positive case. What are we going to do?
Mhm.
And what we did is we dedicated a building,
Mhm.
Mason Creek, to our COVID positive guys.
Mhm.
We don't have a lot, but we do have a few.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, man, if you're positive, instead of kicking you out, the plan is to move you into this. And this happened like through trial and error, I guess, but this is where we're at.
Mhm.
It's like you move into our COVID positive program, but you still continue on in programming. Like,
Mhm.
we will still train you to fight the battle of addiction,
Mhm.
because again, that's what's killing them first. So we have, it's pretty incredible how the clinical team, our operations team, our CR team came together, and we're delivering our services. Like, we're
Mhm.
still providing programming.
Right. And that
Tom?
was done, and changing it over, it was like a 48-hour changeover, right? There
Yeah,
was
because
something miraculous in timing.
once it hit, then it was like, okay, we got to move now.
Yeah.
From day
Tom?
from day
Oh, sorry.
one, we created a COVID task force. So
Mhm.
the minute this came out that it's going to spread, we created a task force. What do we need to do? What are we implementing? And every day, the news evolves every day. So every day it was changing,
Mhm.
and we had a plan in place. And then once the first positive came through, it's like, okay, now what do we got to do quickly? And we, like you said, a 48-hour turnover to create a COVID program and our negative program.
And we've done over 230 tests, and that's just, within a couple week period. Like, we're
Mhm.
testing, prior to that, all of our guys would get tests coming in, but
Mhm.
now it's like, okay, everyone's getting tested,
Mhm.
just because that's the environment that we're in.
Yeah, 100%. Tom?
Yeah, because this, none of this is going away, and all of it is brand new. I mean, no one has. There's experts have answers and all this kind of stuff, and like, okay, what, like Lisa was saying, from the beginning, we had our task force together, following CDC guidelines, following Texas state guidelines, following county guidelines, whatever it was. And then, of course, we would go above that, right? Because we are a healthcare facility. We're an essential service. So how do we, obviously do every precaution that we can, but we know that even with doing every precaution that you can, it's going to happen. And it's going to continue to happen. So with that in mind, like Josh said, with most things, we had a good solid plan coming into them. With COVID, with the whole world and specific to our facility, we had to come up with them on the fly, right? And so it took us a little bit of time, to get the plans that Josh had mentioned in place. When I say time, it took us about 48 hours. Not a large amount of time, because the guiding rule for that is that we didn't fit into anyone's perfect solution, right? The perfect solution is, if someone's positive, is hey, you need to go home and isolate for 14 days. What about our homeless veterans, like that we had, the guys that don't have anywhere to go? So you want us to release them and put them on the streets in San Antonio? Well, no, of course not. It's like, okay, well then let us continue to handle everything that we're doing what we can, So there was a lot of stuff to work through, but we had a lot of good people from the state that really is helpful to us, and in communications. But back to what you were saying before, is that, okay, if the answer is go to, because a lot of these places, even some of the VAs, and thank God they're doing something and the best that they can, but they're saying they're renting these hotel rooms in these places, and we're like, hey, we'll put you here, right? So you take an alcoholic or an addict and you put them in a hotel or a motel room for 2 weeks. How do you think that's going to work out? Number one, that's what they were doing before they came to us, right? I mean, we're so that solution doesn't work. And then another thing that I want to mention, just because it's so important, number one, we're an essential service, and then adapting and modifying and everything that we've done as a result of COVID is that, a lot of these places, like Josh said, chose to close down. Our first responders, our veterans, our active duty guys, like they don't go to PTSD treatment or drug and alcohol rehab or TBI treatment just so they can feel better, right? Like they are dying. Like we can't say it enough, like with the suicide rate and all in this population, like they're dying. So then we tell them, like, oh, you can't, sorry, we can't take you in. Like that's a death sentence, So with, that's the reason number one why we started Warriors Heart, was to fill the gap that wasn't being fulfilled, in the private sector or at the VA or within, the retiree community. So with all of COVID, this is just another adaptation that we're doing at Warriors Heart, because back to the vision, like stopping what we're doing is not an option. So, okay, we figure it out along the way.
Right.
Yeah, because at first it was, okay, what are the recommendations? Well, you're not a medical facility, discharge them. Give them CDC recommendations, quarantine at home, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, so we go into it following the expert advice and just getting crushed. Like it was ripping our hearts out. And to Tom's point, guys like, hey man, I'm homeless. Hey man, I have to travel. Hey, I don't have assets to do this. So we had to figure it out. And that's what we did.
Right.
And I'll add to that too. So each VA authorizes independently. So since we've implemented our COVID and negative plan, we've had a number of VAs and private insurance companies come out and say, oh my gosh, I love the program you built and how you're continuing to treat. And they just keep sending us people. Whether they're positive or negative, they're just, because we're solving a problem that they didn't have a solution for.
That's right.
Yeah, and for the most part, the VAs, each VA is different, but they've been great to us. I mean, we have 30 guys on the waiting list. They're like, hey, they need places to send these our warriors to. They know we're doing it right, so it's like, hey, okay, we're working, but we're not going to be reckless about this.
Right. slightly change the topic on that, and thank you, all three of you, for that. This is one from a lady named Christina. Do you allow for volunteering, and if so, who would they contact? Lisa?
Tricky question. So we do take volunteers, but the state is so regulated on guidelines. When everyone comes through, they have to meet certain training requirements. And with volunteers, sometimes they want to work one day here, one day there. We don't have a set schedule.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, we get them through the training. What are we going to have them do? So we do take volunteers, but there's kind of a lengthy training requirement by the state that we have to follow. But they can email through our website, and then, you know, we'll reach out and contact from there.
Yeah,
And
we have a
one
volunteer
thing, too,
form on our site. Sorry.
And one thing also is, you know, with the situation with COVID, you know, we have to limit, you know, right now we're not even allowing visitors, you know, at Warriors Heart. However, and we always say this because so many people want to volunteer because they're great Americans and they want to do, you know, things for the people that protect them, you know, every single day. And the number one thing that you can do for us is to get the word out. Like, talk about Warriors Heart, share videos, whether it's a Black Rifle Coffee video, whether it's one of these videos, whatever it is get the word out. And the reason why I say that is because most of our warriors or their family members that find us, you know, it's usually from a late night search when they're at the end. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know this place existed. We have a lot of the VAs that are assisting us in putting the word out. But back to the question of I want to volunteer, how do I do that? Is you can do that from your computer, from your phone at home, like blast this stuff out, you know, mean to even, you know, mean to your close family and friends, you know, and to whoever else. But it seems like it's not that big of a deal. Like, I really want to volunteer and do something. Like, that is a huge thing that folks can do for us, you know, is to share it is what Warriors Heart and what Warriors Heart Foundation is all about and what we're doing. That's a huge volunteering effort. I can't say it enough. I know it doesn't feel like it because like, I wanted to get grimy and like really get in there and do it. And just understand that with the current situation, you know, we're limited to what we can do. But like, again, sharing our message, sharing our vision, sharing what we're doing is huge.
Right.
And that's a good point too, Tom, because, you know, whether a warrior comes to us or not and gets help somewhere else, maybe a video or maybe our website just planted that seed, because it's so hard sometimes to pick up that 10,000-pound phone and ask for help. But as long as they're asking for help.
Right. Also, we do have a toll-free number. You guys can always reach us at warriorsheart.com. I'll just put my little makeshift one. The 1-866, I know, I love it. 423, although it is the orange of Warriors Heart, 423-0801. So if you guys did have any questions, you needed to talk to people or reach out and talk to us, it's 24/7, reach out to us. I believe we're at the end of our timeline. There you go. I had even set an alarm for it. So I wanted to thank you guys for being on this call. I know, you know, with everything that's going on, we've got so many things that we're doing to help our warriors and you know, and maintain what we do so great at Warriors Heart. And thank you, Tom, for expressing how people can share this video or share comments down below or tag somebody in the comments down below to see this video for the replay. But again, I wanted to thank the three of you, Tom, Josh, and Lisa. Thank you for taking the time to be on this call. I truly appreciate it. And for myself, Winston Bromley from Warriors Heart, we thank you for being on this call, on this Facebook Live. Did you guys have any last things you wanted to put out there before I go?
We're just getting going.
I know, it was. Perfect. We'll leave it at that. Now we're like stalling it.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you. I mean, we have incredible support from our community here in Bandera, Texas, outside San Antonio, all across the U.S., and VAs, active duty, fire departments, police departments. There's incredible support for the mission, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you for the trust and the confidence and helping us do what we do. Okay. We really appreciate it.
Before we go, we had one last minute question. I'll get to you in just a second, Lisa. It says, I'm a retired firefighter. How do you help retired firefighters? That'll be the last question for tonight.
the number one way that we can help them is call that number
Mhm.
and talk to our admissions advocates, and they can walk you through the whole process precisely. That is the best way, and they're good to talk to.
Awesome. Thank you. And Lisa, last word, as always.
What are you saying?
Nothing.
No, and just, yeah, I just want to thank everyone too for everything you do to support, the sharing and the love and spreading the message. And we have an incredible team that does all the hard work every day, day in, day out, and to help bring our warriors home. So, we couldn't do it without our team, each other, the support of the community. It's just been phenomenal. And our mission, Warriors Healing Warriors, is truly what we're about. And the more people we can help, the better off humanity will be.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 73 team members in the fight still, and they're awesome, incredible human beings, and we're still in it with you guys. So, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night, and please share this. Get the word out. We appreciate everything that you guys do to help us. Thanks. Bye now.
Thanks.